about the data sheets on what kind of bolts to use.
Oh, that's nice.
You know who I had to do this for? The FAA. This is what the FAA wants. They want everything detailed. Right? Talking, everything. So your fire escape fails, your engineer needs to come up with one of these, your architect or other design professional. Or if you have a guy, guess what he wants to do that you may even accept? He may finger paint it for dummies, and he's gonna show up there 3 times. You know what a finger paint for dummy is, engineer, architect? They show up and they have 3 color paints in their pocket, and they walk there with the vendor and the owner. And everything that he wants repaired, he marks it with yellow. Everything that's an emergency, he marks it in red. And all the cement work, he marks it in white. That may or may not fly with you, but that's how and he's gonna be there 3 times. He's gonna be there at the beginning, he's gonna be there in the middle, he's gonna be there at the end. What I highly recommend, which is not the norm, is when you're getting finals on a fire escape, meet the design professional or others at the site during the final sign-off. For the next 3 to 5 years, then you don't have to do it anymore, because the assurance is gonna be there that people get it. You know, that this is a very, you know, but right now, it took 75 years to screw this up. You're only gonna fix it in 75 days. And that doesn't even include the political blowback, because some of the people who put the mayor in office and put the, you know, may own a couple of those buildings, and you guys are gonna cause some noise. You guys are gonna get some blowback.
Try to inspire all the local inspectors, not that that's the state inspectors.
So let's open up to a few more questions, and then I'll take a look at the time, and then I'll give you the bullet version of you know, some of the slides. I think some of them are going to be very quick and very important. But let's ask some questions, because this is nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. Go ahead.
I got a political scenario that actually happened. My predecessor was retiring, Joe Mack. He put in an order to have a wooden, this is a type B2 building. And
Match the building type. I think it was.
yeah, type 2. Anyway, he put in an order because it had a wooden staircase, rickety. There was a new, the only reason we got in there, and this is under section 111 of the Mass General Law instead of the building code. We did that, we got there because of the facility in there that was going to be, that was a medical facility, it was going to be a mental health. So I go over there.
Yeah.
And no one told me we should go in. In fact, my predecessor actually after that, let's deal with the wooden staircase outside. I said, oh yeah, we wrote this up. You know, I know, and to say some political names, I know Mr. Benton, and I know this. This is Worcester. He was a big deal up in Worcester and Boston and all that. This is how the car show. I said, I can't believe it. So you do this. My former commissioner, Mr. Carlin, calls me up. Is there anything we can do? So yeah, you can get a new one. New fire escape. And when it's all said and done, that was taken off. You know, I think that was the locust tablet and all they had to do today, whatever they need to do. There was a brand new metal, everything else. She fought that for. She was an attorney too. She owned the building. It's the old Worcester jail. She fought that for 3 months. Finally, I said, well, this is not going to be. And I said, I'll tell you what. As someone falls down that set of stairs and gets hurt, I have an attorney very similar to you that's going to be suing.
Better than you.
So, yeah, probably better. So that you're right. There is some political blowback there, and with the state, we don't get it that much because we can defend ourselves relatively well. But when you guys, and I sympathize with everybody, I was a building official, Dave was too, I was a building official in 3 different towns. I know if you say something unpopular, you better have a bunch of stuff in back of you to prove what in the heck you're talking about. And for some reason, you got a group of people following up the office, and all of a sudden you look back and you see tumbleweeds going back. You're the only one there. And, so I feel your pain, but, you know, we gotta do the right thing.
Yeah. Fire escape ain't sexy.
No, it's a no-win situation.
It's a bastard child of egress, but it's there for many, many people. Any other questions that we have before I go through some slides? And again, the slides are gonna repeat a lot of the stuff I said. I think it's important just to take a peek at a few things, but does anybody have any questions on how rust grows? So just as a couple of quick, how long does it take to grow a 1/4 inch of rust?
25 years.
You have to leave it alone that long. Don't touch it, don't paint it, don't do anything. So that's how long. In order for this to have no rust on it, to be brown, how long you have to ignore it? 15 years. You leave it alone for 15 years and you just let it keep going, she'll start 15 to 25 years, she'll look just like this. Okay? So just so you know, surface rust is different than internal rust. Because internal rust stays in corners and nooks and crannies, pigeon poo, rabbit poo, leaves, and all these things. They go into these nook and crannies. They stay moist and wet year round. A fire escape on the north side that gets sun is different than a fire escape on the south side that gets shadow. They rot at different rates, even though they were built the same year. So that's the rust issue. These connections, you know why they hold? Because as rust grows, they compress. As they try to go out, they hold things in. So these guys step on it, and what happens when these guys step on it? They go, and that's when these guys drop down to the ground, or they go by themselves because there's an inspection going on. I've had inspectors, and in New York City, that woman, she loosened the tread that killed a guy down, had a family, you know, was a married guy with family, 3 kids. They're in a lawsuit right now. You know,
I just had a flashback to you telling that story the last time I saw you.
well, this happened just recently. There was other stories like this where people that got but this one, here's the funny thing. Their lawyer just recently came on camera and said, for the company that did the inspection, says, we did a great job. We're the ones that inspected this fire escape 5 years ago, and everything was done above board. It was the best. And I called the lawyer, says, you're not going to use me anymore. He goes, I know. The guy just gave us the case. He just admitted that he did everything right that killed this guy on the ground, and they didn't. And then when they did the repairs on the emergency repairs on that job, guess what they did? They welded it again. Guess what? They left the rust inside. But the fact that he on camera admitted that, you know, he was trying to make it an act of God. As soon as you weld rust inside, is there an act of God? That's negligence. As soon as you see the welding rod on anything, so as soon as any engineer, architect signs a document that says under pains and perjury, there is no internal rust on this structure, and that I have done a pull test on that building, or I have duplicated the connection with epoxy bolts or a new through bolt with a plate on the inside, you know what he just did? You can put that in your file. Because if anything goes on the ground a few years later, guess what?
I can sleep.
This is going to hang the guy. Well, the insurance company is going to pay the bill. The insurance for the architect or the engineer, because he just signed a false document. You have a question?
Oh, I was just going to say, so we want as far as emissions insurance, we believe the liability insurance will be segregated against this insurance.
But it was negligence. Guess on whose part? His. As soon as you can prove that he didn't do the right thing, he's done. He's cooked. Okay?
You have to show malice.
Correct.
So if he didn't do it, and he's just a, you know, even somebody gets a C in architecture, it's still an architect.
Right. But if you let one tread go by that had rust in it, and yet every other one was great, took care of it, act of God. You can, every tread on the fire escape was bad, and one let go and hurt or kill somebody, you're done. So a lot of times when I get investigating I get called on a case, the first thing I do is investigate the as is. I gotta go there right away. Oh no, a couple months from now, no, I need to go there right now. I gotta see, I gotta document not only what occurred, but to the left of this and to the right, because that's the time capsule that tells me what happened here. That happened in the Boston case. We were there immediately, and the only reason is because I forced it with the lawyer to say, you gotta get me in there before, because they already had the permit, they already had a violation, and they were already ready to tear it down and lose all the data proving what? 25 years was gonna go. Instead, we get there, not only did I find that something was wrong in the first one, there was others. And then when I walk down the street, a few, and I see the other building with all the big gaping holes, now what? Is it just that problem, or is it pretty much a street issue? Got it? All right, so let's take a look at some, I'll go through some slides. Any other examples or any other questions? You guys need to work with your firemen, because the fire prevention needs to be told, it needs to be doing their sign-offs to make sure that they have an affidavit. You guys need to start tying in fire escapes with your permit process, with anything that you can wrap it up as part of your sequence, whether you're pulling a permit or closing permits. And it took 75 years to screw this up, so how long is it gonna take for us to fix it?
150.
3 to 5.
2 to 1 fence.
Safety
3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years.
This is supposed to be a safe way out in emergencies, but some experts say some fire escapes are themselves
This
a
is,
danger that puts
another New
people
York.
at risk. CBS 2's Marcia Kramer demanding answers tonight. We see the trailer ready this launch by itself. How much rust is inside that? I wouldn't go on the fire escape. It was an iPhone. Nationally recognized fire escape expert Cisco Meneses.
So you can see how much noise this made with that death in New York.
As we walked the streets in downtown Manhattan, it was also too easy to spot dangerous conditions. Should this fire escape have violations? Yes, it has been kept painted, but it's not structurally sound. Heavy rust was clearly visible, and something else we saw over and over again: air conditioners. That's an obstruction for the firemen to get in, as well as the people to get out. Any obstruction, from flower pots to art installations, can impede a safe escape in an emergency. But even more frightening, the structural integrity of fire escapes designed to save lives in some cases has proven deadly. Earlier this year in Soho, a tread fell from this fire escape and killed one pedestrian and injured another. And in May of 2011, an entire platform gave way from this Midtown building. You can see here the evidence of corrosion. That's what caused the platform to fail. Attorney Herb Cabrera says the victim fell 12 feet and needed multiple surgeries. The building eventually settled the lawsuit for millions. You gotta live with pain for the rest of your life.
This is the one I did in New York
According to the
City.
Department of Buildings, there are about 200,000 fire escapes in the city, and they are all required to be maintained by building owners. In buildings 6 stories and above, fire escapes and building facades are inspected by the DOP every 5 years.
6 stories and above.
We do the best that we can. And they were clearly concerned when we showed them some of what we found. This is a glimpse. How do you feel about that? It's totally fire escape. So what about situations where you have clearly rusted out? Legal work violations for failure to maintain when we run into those conditions. This year, there were more than 5,000 311 complaints to the DOB, as well as the Department of Housing Preservation and Development and the Fire Department, who also does regular inspections to make sure firefighters are safe. If you feel a fire escape is dangerous or unsafe, we don't expect our members to go on. The fire department says they will put up ladders or find another way in. Firefighters have been seriously injured on fire escapes previously. There's a dear price to pay when an owner does not carefully maintain the fire escape. The fire escapes on some of the buildings can be 75 to 100 years old. Our expert told us that some of the bolts holding them up have never been replaced. If you see a dangerous situation, call 311. I'm Marcia Kramer, CBS 2 News.
So, in 6 stories and above, mandatory 5-year inspection on the entire structure and the entire envelope. Guess what everybody builds?
6 and below.
6 and below.
But right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got escapes. I had people hanging in their fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people in that fire escape. About 50 people were displaced inside this building. Our firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said, that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
So, what's that about? When's the last time you trained your 4-year-old or 6-year-old or 8-year-old daughter or son to go down a fire escape ladder that doesn't go all the way to the ground? And they have to jump 10 feet, 12 feet into a fireman's arms.
Monkey bars.
So these are the things. What do you mean it doesn't work? These fire escapes are supposed to work, especially when you release the ladders and such. You're supposed to self-evacuate. So confidence tests, where we've gone. Confidence tests, these 25-point questionnaires are in use in Portland. They're in use in California. They're in use in a couple of cities in your area, which is if you want to call up Lowell, you want to call up Everett, they've started implementing the 25-point questionnaire. If you want to look at New Jersey, you want to look at Philadelphia. So if you go online, Seattle, my first ever case was a fire escape collapse. 4 guys fell, nobody died in Seattle, and I created the confidence test back then. That's how long ago, over 15 years ago. So there's questionnaires online that you can take from existing fire departments or building departments, or just go on to nationalfireescapeassociation.org, click on, questionnaire, typical fire escape questionnaire, click on it, print it out, has no name on it, just use it as part of your own questionnaire. It's too valuable not to be used, okay? And the main thing about this questionnaire, it's a liability questionnaire. Nobody wants it, because it means liability. It means that specific questions are going to be asked, and architects and engineers who do not want, they love the golden parachute, which is an opinion affidavit. And it's very clearly stated on the website of the state website, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with the Mass Building Code. That's all it says. So this is the 1 years and the 5 years. So if you want to go to City of Lowell, take this questionnaire off of there, put your seal on it, put your name and address on it, you're done. Okay? This is the 1 year. So you can have a very simple 1 year, which asks 3 simple questions. Does it look good? Is it painted? Is there anything that you would that would trigger another 5-year inspection on it? Or you can have a complicated one with those questionnaires like I did for San Diego. It's about 15 good questions that a tester should be asking. Okay? And in some cases, you can have very simple people signing, including a building engineer can sign off on these 1 years. It's just an examination of fire escapes in California that I did that passed in 1 year, but they didn't pass in 5 years. I'm not just going to go through it because it's just videos explaining how 1 year you can let 5-year stuff get through that shouldn't. But again, we're short for time. This is the other time that people get hurt on fire escapes. You have people during parades, you have people going out there, and right now, where's the smoking room?
Right there.
Every building in the US has now been made into a fire escape. The only smoking room is the fire escape. Now, you also see there's a guy up over there on the top left corner. One of my guys, his father, fell 7 stories to his death fixing a fire escape. So fire escapes don't care who they kill, who they maim, because you pull out the wrong bolt. So this is dangerous work. If you don't know what you're doing, it'll kill anybody and everybody. Right now, this is just what people are using the fire escapes for. Photo ops, smoke rooms, and as you can see, we're trying to have a sitcom where people just basically cheat on their wives and husbands using the fire escape in the back, but we lost so many of the actors through death and injury that they have to cancel the show right away. So guys, we need to fix fire escapes right away as soon as we can. Now, this is great. What is all external steel or wooden stairways, balconies, bridges, egress? Tell me if this falls into your 1001 examination. Yes, no?
Are those residential, single family?
They're areas of refuge, they're decks, they're railings, they're balconies. Some of them have stairs. Do they need to be examined? Exterior, anything exposed to the exterior.
Depends what the use group is. Yeah, if they're not single or two
They're
family.
not an IBC, if they're an IRC, you do not have to, if they are an IBC, you do
How about this one? This is actually one of your penitentiaries over here, and I think I inspected this in Worcester. Right?
not. No penetration, no penetentiary in Worcester.
Not penitentiary, I'm sorry, it was a youth detention. And so when I went there, and when I stood, and it was inside a courtyard, you know,
2008.
and then all of a sudden when I got there, it looked pretty good, but when I got inside and I looked underneath, guess what I saw?
That'd be a state inspector.
That's the DYS.
Whoa.
The boss, somebody when we were bosses.
Did you guys hear that, by the way? That's the DYS facility on Belmont Street, and that's been taken out quite a while. That had to be 10 years ago.
Yeah,
There's
easily.
a brand new facility there. I'm working on tearing that down.
So guys, the main thing about fire escapes, you asked about what's a load test. When we go up and down fire escapes, we do a ping pong test with a hammer. We have a 3-pound hammer test. And that hammer test is not for the load test. The hammer test is a safety test for us to make sure we can properly go up this fire escape as an examiner, especially on the treads. And this is the reason why, because there's a lot of rust jacking happening on treads. And sometimes rust jacking can be as small as a 1/16 or as big as a 1/2 inch. And both will give way. So you ping pong it, and this is the reason why.
Oops.
And that's it.
I think we're done.
Seems like more of a ping pong. Go upstairs.
And what I'll do now is I have my red, and I'll highlight it in red.
Yeah, fix that. Let's program.
Why'd you break my fire escape? Look at that tread up there. Look how bad that is.
Oh.
Now, you know who's not gonna see that? A fireman in the dark at night, going up or down.
Ray has a smaller hammer on it.
They use a smaller hammer.
Much rather. be
Guys,
like
this
that.
is a copy of the fire escape that we took out of Arlington. So this is what I did. I saved several pieces of this fire escape and I made it into showpieces. This is one of the smallest of the showpieces. But I actually did the piece, and what I did to it is I actually fixed it wrong using welding witch doctor technology. And I use it to do show and tells. So this is what you don't want to see on a fire escape repair, where they put a clip up above and they weld it to the side, and then they pick up every little bar. This is also what you don't want to see. You know, a fully rusted fire escape, and then they weld the nose of it while the rust is still in the connection. This is welding witch doctors. Okay? This is what the fire escape did. This was 4 feet wide, this fire escape. Okay, and I cut it down so I can make it travel, but I basically did the right repair on one side, did the wrong repair on the other side, just to show you which doctors and proper repair and bolting, right? Got it? This is the before, and this is the after. This used to be in Arlington. Is it the Maintenon School? It's a French school over there in Arlington. Anybody familiar with that? It's I think the church owns it. They rent it out to a French. They teach French primarily. It's a French kindergarten through 8th grade kind of through high school actually.
Is that Rusty's alma mater?
This is that's Rusty's alma mater. And so what happens is we took it out during Christmas. And then what we did is we put it back in, but then we went off to the side because kids were climbing underneath it. But they use this every day to go to recess, every single day. Talk about codes. We talk about the 1910. Oh, and scaffolding. Approved. I'm not saying it can be done. I'm just telling you that when you work with your fire department and your building department, you can put up something that's approved to satisfy the situation while the fire escape, and this is one of the cases, the fire escape's on the back,
Yeah.
so they had a means of egress.
Point
Yes.
out 1910 is for industry, not for construction.
Correct.
It's the wrong OSHA. I have a feeling you're gonna find it corresponding with the construction standard, which is 1926.
1926, where I should look for that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, again, confidence test, we've had many redrafts of the confidence test. It's just a checkbox, yes, no, doesn't apply. And it covers every single aspect of the fire escape, okay? It usually has a lot of the code sitting in it, has a lot of information, so that if anybody needs to cross-reference codes, it should be in there. Different cities have different, they have simpler checkbox systems, yes, no. So it doesn't mean you have to accept what I've put out there for questions. You can make up your own questions and use the ones that I have as a draft guideline. But believe me, you will get blowback from architects and engineers who do not want to answer any of these questions. As soon as you receive an affidavit, I don't care how flimsy it is, keep it. Send them a copy of, don't send it back, say thank you very much for the certification, because now you're good, now fill out this form. It may or may not fill out that form, but that will determine whether or not you have a valid document in your hand and whether or not they're giving you a false document.
Right.
I've had a lot of people with problems with that. Not problems, but you know, in Portland, this is all they need. A date. That's when it needs to be, it got inspected or when it needs to be re-inspected. There's nothing else. It's just a tag and it has a number on it.
It's not the 911.
No, it just says that this needs to be inspected in 2016. It was inspected in 2016. Now it's 2021 is the next inspection. Again, permanently affixed. It's not the 3-tag system. But you go to Seattle and they have the white, and the yellow and the red, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so confidence tests are all over the country. You don't have to use mine. You can, but a lot of these that are all over the country, I created a program for that state or for that city. This is what a white and a red and a yellow looks like in Seattle, and they want it to be 19 inches long, 11 inches high. Okay, so that's where the white, the yellow, and the red came from. Okay, and this is what it looks like if you're going down the alleyway, guys. You don't have to read it. You have to see the white. So this is actually a safety program for these fire guys. Tell me what conditions. So I'm not asking you to go certify these fire escapes. I want them all to be tagged. And they'll either be tagged white, yellow, or red. And if nobody wants to comply, guess what color they get? They get a red. We don't know. So you're a red. No, it's not a red. Okay, then at least move it up to a yellow. You know what I'm saying? Before you get it to the white. But you know who needs to know what color it is? So this is a safety program, right? So this is really a program where you're trying to identify all the fire escapes. In Boston, there's over 8,500 fire escapes. How many do you have in your city? Maybe 100, but maybe 300 more wood egress stairs, or 500.
I can think of like 3 or 4.
How are you pulling this?
Okay, this is that case where the guy, this actually won a Pulitzer Prize in '73. Okay? So a lot of times, here's a load test for, in Cambridge for Harvard University, and this is us sandbagging the whole thing. And the only reason I did it for your comical pleasure and your relief.
So obviously you were quite confident carrying that.
Well, that's why I do a pre-load test evaluation, and if I certify it as having other evidence of strength, do I even need to load test it? So I was load testing a fully certified fire escape, all rebolted.
Instead of carrying all the sand, you put it out the middle of peanuts, it would look the same.
Oh, that, see, that's a movie prop. Jesus. Oh,
No one's tied in.
but the reality will look like this with
We're
peanuts.
doing a concentrated load of every other tread, 200 pounds.
You ever try to stand sandbags on stairs?
Hey,
They
Tom,
don't
you
sit
want
well.
to-
Look
You
at
want
this.
to note that the staircase is starting, what time?
There's a time limit. These are 50-pound sandbags, and you have to tie them up, especially down the stairs. It just goes crazy.
Just keep doing it.
This guy should be tied in.
Gotta hope they don't get hurt.
Because you're inspecting a certified fire. You're load testing a certified fire.
Right?
So you go ahead and
That's
do a
more
load test.
dangerous than going down the stairs
So
yourself.
you do that.
Hello?
So this is what cable, this is me in California, even though we did a full refurb, guess what the owner still wanted? A load test. So now we needed to say, so now that's where you use cabling, that's where you use, a weight at the bottom, we use the bottom end of a truck, a 7,000-pound truck, we use it to put about 3,000 pounds of load.
Seems a lot safer than people being on.
Yeah, it's all certified. I said, you don't need the load test. He goes, I want a load test anyway. I said, he goes, and I want to give you some money. I'm like, oh, okay.
He paid you for the load test as well, because I'd be like.
Yeah, well,
Because
he just,
like here.
because these used to have stairs. And because they did the whole internal stair, these were going to become waiting balconies, decorative balconies on these condos. He wanted it fully refurbed and he wanted it load tested. I'm like, and I videotaped, obviously. Question?
Seems like the loaded sandbag shouldn't even be an option based on, you know, if it fails, obviously there's gonna be people up there. They're not tied off or anything, what if they did fail? There's no, you know?
Well, again, not every yeah, in lieu of a load test. Not every situation can I because a lot of times you can use cherry pickers, you know what I'm saying? But in some cases, it's very difficult on the fire escape without physically getting on it, being part of the load test. So we prefer not to be load testing and use other evidence of strength which says all the bolts are brand new. There's no rust in any internal connection. All the steel has been verified is not worn or deteriorated. This is a structural engineer that's basically saying, stand on this chair, it's a brand new chair. Got it? Lifting. You know what I'm saying? So with the load cell is in the middle, so we were basically, and the biggest thing about it is, I'm only load testing 3,000 pounds up there, but I had a 7,000 pound truck down below. But a lot of times when you want to put all your weight on the ground, and then you want to basically use the load cell to transfer the load to up above. And there's the deflection, you're supposed to measure it before, so here's the rule, 1,000 pounds being applied, you apply 400 pounds, 40% of the load, 400 pounds first, take measurements before, during, and after for a certain period of time, no deflection, you apply the remaining 60%. So you do a test to make sure that there's no deflection of any kind, any give, any crack, anything going on. And then you watch that, and you take as much precaution as possible, including harnessing, including positioning, including cherry picking, but not all fire escapes are in a great place where you can do these things. Harvard being one, and so this other one too. So who inspects fire escapes? The general public in Massachusetts as well as in the country believe that engineers can inspect fire escapes. They believe architects can, and so the design professional, are this acceptable? That's in your code. Philadelphia, because of that collapse, people died. And I was an expert witness on that. You know what they want? Only structural engineers can inspect in the city of Philadelphia. Only. Oh, by the way, when that happened, they said in January 1 of 2017, they said we want every single fire escape inspected, repaired, and load tested by July 1, 2017. I think that worked.
Did they ship in a bunch of structural engineers from
Nobody.
elsewhere?
They knee-jerk reacted to it, and instead of, following the guidelines, and it's just chaos. They basically thrown out they revamped their entire building department, and again, they had to settle huge money, because people who got hurt on that fire escape collapse that triggered this whole thing. The city got pulled in, and as you know, you can't really sue a city for a lot of these things, but you get the black eye, you get the reputation, and believe me, they really threw the city through the ringer. Architects, well, they believe city officials are inspecting fire escapes, so a lot of my people who call me and said, you guys wrote them a violation, they say, hey, the city official said it was fine, fix that one tread. So you guys are inspectors all of a sudden. They said, you fix that one tread, that's all I need, and give me a certificate. So I get told what to do, because you guys point out certain things. Third-party inspection, and these are full-blown inspection, but some of your people that you write violations to are bringing in wrong information, and for us to correct it, we have a hard time correcting it. And fire escape inspectors in the city of Boston. You know who can inspect the fire escape? There's no such thing as a fire escape inspector in the city of Boston. What it is a structural engineer, a design professional, and a fire escape installer. So, let me see how this works out. So, structural engineers have insurance, for such sign-offs, design professionals, architects. You ever see an engineer or an architect fix a fire escape? Let's get down to the G3 guys who build these things, install these things, and fix these things. With or without a permit?
That's,
No permit. I'm all done. I said I'm all done. Do I need to check with anybody? No. I get this affidavit, which is a city document, I mean a state document, and I sign it, because it says right there, structural engineers, architects, and G3 guys. And G3 guys make window guards, railings, and occasionally they do fire escapes. So when they weld a fire escape, inspect the fire escape, sign off on an affidavit on a fire escape, the fox in the hen house? Can I count the chickens for you? How many chickens we have today? I don't know. Maybe when they look, I'm gonna start counting. 9. So I've made that a concern, and it's fallen on deaf ears, guys. So should G3 guys in the city of Boston be signing off on their own work? The answer is no. Can G3 guys, after convincing a city official that they're pretty good inspectors, sign off on other people's work? Maybe yes, because that says others acceptable to the building official. Should architects and engineers be signing off? Yes. Do they know what they're doing? No, because there was never any money in the city of Boston. You know who made money in the city of Boston on fire escapes? On all 8,500 of them? Iron workers, welding witch doctors. So some of these guys have come out this far, right? You've seen some G3 guys out here, haven't you? You've seen some G3 guys? But your code just told you, we just clarified today, correct? From the state? That the code says an affidavit must be submitted if you pass, or a report must be submitted if you fail. So can anybody go from a violation straight to repair?
No, we have to have the,
Need a report. That's what they're just saying right here. So that's a little bit of the code that will help you a little bit to say, I need a report before you proceed with the repairs. So that's a design professional or others acceptable to the building official. And depending on the quality of that report, we'll either issue a permit or say, no, it's routine maintenance because you're going to complete it on the load test. And then if there's going to be a load test, what do you need? A load test write-up. How are you going to load test? Sandbags, water bags? Got it, guys? So again, fire escapes are not sexy. Bastard child of egress. All right, I'm gonna move very quickly to this. This is what happens when engineers, sometimes that don't have any rules. These fire escapes were all certified, they just needed painting, and I found nothing but this upon proper inspection. Guess what? I was in the city, I think either Waltham or Watertown. I inspected the fire tower. Guess what you guys have?
Wow.
Fire escapes are crappy on all your fire towers. Why? Because they've never been inspected. And so here I am. I don't know if this is Waltham or Watertown, and I shut this down years ago because if the fire training doesn't kill you, the fire escape. So they even train you how to die on fire escapes at the fire escape. It's part of like a live.
that's a test. It's a
real
world representation.
A state thing. This is Chelsea. You know the Chelsea home up on the hill in Chelsea?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I did this fire escape inspection. 3 years later, they finally worked on it.
that's good.
Well, it's just fresh red paint on it.
Looks like Picasso built that one.
Wow.
Do you guys know? I think this is Haverhill. Do you guys notice that goes? This is the mayor's office.
Nice. He's not getting out.
Steps missing. Dear Mayor.
Dear Mayor, come down and speak with us.
He's got one way out.
What goes inside your building is usually the problem. What can I see that tells me there's problems inside? I got rusty tears coming on the outside. I know I'm going very fast through this, but guys, this is a typical 6-hour class when I can just, go into a lot of detail. But what you want to do here is you want to understand that there's a reason for load testing, because there's things behind the brick that you guys will never know, and that only a design professional or an architect who has experience in this stuff, or somebody that's a specialist in this field, And there's only a handful of certified people through the NFPA that are architects and engineers nationwide. Okay, through bolts. So I'm sorry that I'm just flying through this, but as soon as I'm done here, you guys can let you go. You guys can give me your cards, I can keep you posted. This happened down in Blackstone. A guy put up his own fire escape, took it down because he had to do the roof, him and his son. And then he sold it off his condos, and then the fire escape, he forgot to put on. What do you do when you're a mechanic, do you have extra bolts as a man? Put it off to the side? 'Cause
Yeah, use them later.
you use them later, you never needed those. That engine didn't need all those bolts. Same thing on this fire escape, while they were up there trying to sell the condos, the fire escape slipped and fell off the building. This is another fire escape fatality in Utah. Another fire escape fatality in
Witnesses say it
Philadelphia.
sounded like an incredible explosion when the fire escape of a Philadelphia apartment building suddenly collapsed and injured 3 people.
NBC 10 cameras were there as a friend
Just in case I was
holds on to
involved,
one
that
of the
changed the whole
victim's
Philadelphia
hands,
thing.
who is apparently conscious as the victim is placed into an ambulance
actually died.
by medics.
KYW-TV reports a man who was critically injured and 2 women were rushed to local hospitals.
Police believe the bolts of the fire escape appear to have been rusted and dislodged from the brick wall of the apartment building.
The victim
Through
fell
bolts rotted all the way
30
through.
feet to the ground, and now the incident is under investigation. Worth noting, the complex is more than 100 years old and even on Philadelphia's historic registry.
I did a class,
Fire escape engineers inspect the summary video.
we actually seen
Philadelphia.
2 days later.
All right. Some of the preliminary information that I'm getting out of this is that this piece here, which this is the back, used to be up against the building. These 2 brackets here used to be going to that 4th, 5th floor up there, where you now see the 2
How far they
blowouts.
fell.
The blowout on the left and the blowout on the right. And it used to be attached there.
They said it. The most important part of that is that the fire escape, they put it back and it was still uncertified. Because I got to inspect that just in the past year and the work that was done to it. Yeah, they put that back correctly, but the rest of the fire escape that it ties into, all failed. But nobody, people do or do not want to hear it, I'm saying. My first case was in Iowa, and this is where a fire escape fell 3 stories with some students on it. So, and this is where they put the fire escape, in a cornfield. And what I found is that
with a staircase.
when we found all the pieces, instead of putting the through bolt back into the building, they put a lag bolt back into a hole. Right, so, I'm gonna end it here on that piece that talks about, just what we just came to say. You need to be 2 feet square, 10 feet tall, weigh over 600 pounds, just to meet the load requirements on these things. But these things are built, they're overbuilt. The only thing that happened in 100 years has been no 5-year rule, so they've been just left. So this is, this is not sexy, this is the bastard child of egress. And right now, there is a 5-year rule on the IFC, but there's always been a 5-year rule since how far back now? To the
Going back in
70s?
the 80s.
Okay, and I believe, from my information and knowledge, it was because of that incident in 73 that they were one of the first in the nation to implement the 5-year rule. Nowhere else did they have a 5-year rule on fire escapes. They had this envelope thing for 5 years, that kind of swirled in New Jerseys and stuff like that, but there was no specific 5-year rule. Mass was one of them. And even that started nosediving because there was no automatic trigger and it wasn't tied into something else.
Yeah, it's part of the owner's responsibility.
Part of the owner's responsibility, out of sight, out of mind. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and don't go look to fix it. So this is why fire escapes are where we are today. So this is a critical piece of your safety, not only for the firemen, for the people. So somehow you need to verify, you need to create some sort of, not necessarily ordinance, but some sort of checklist added in and say, do you have 2 means of egress if you're about to do anything on this structure? If you're either going to occupy it, repair it, replace it, do anything, do you have your 2 means of egress? And can I put a tag on it? And did you give me a proper 25-point questionnaire? And was there a proper engineer oversight during the result of my violation? Because if you pass, give me something that I can that I can hang my hat on, that can, most likely including a load test, because we have original hardware. Or if it failed, give me some sort of report that, because you can't go straight to fixing, you can't hire Harry Ironworks right away to satisfy your violation. Because that's what they're gonna do, and that's what they've been doing. They've gone right to Harry Ironworks, and they started fixing the fire escape right away. I said, no, you need to bring me a design professional, or that's acceptable to me, that brings me a game plan, and from that, I'll either let it continue without a permit, or I will ask for a permit on what you're about to do, and I wanna make sure that that building, that design professional is gonna visit it at least 3 times. In the beginning, because things will show up, in the middle, because things are gonna get covered up, and at the end, when we need to either determine that there's gonna be an integrated load test, or a full load test, or other evidence of strength, as it states in the NFPA, the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength, which other evidence of strength means what now on fire escapes? Other evidence of strength means what? What do you do with all the fasteners? What's other evidence of strength?
Place.
You leave one of these behind. I changed every bolt on this fire escape except this bolt here. What's the only thing I have to load test?
One bolt.
This bolt, lateral load test, 200 pounds exerted in every and all directions, right? 100 pounds this way, 200 pounds that way, lateral load test, right? That bolt. Or you tell the guy, dude, how much for the load test? $2,000. How much for the bolt? $2. Right? But then there's that second question, what about the interior of the wall? My building's 100 years old. So yeah, we got that covered, the structural engineer. It's either gonna do a pull test, right? Or he's gonna duplicate the connection. As soon as you duplicate the connection, what do we got? Again, other evidence of strength. You guys do this for the next 3 to 5 years, you make it systematic. Don't go looking for fire escapes, have fire escapes look for you through the permit process, whatever, and these guys will thank you in 3 to 5 years. Not now, because they won't believe anything that you tell them. They're still gonna be taught, never get on a fire escape, right? Ever. Never, ever, ever get on a fire escape, ever. That's what they're taught, every day, nationwide, not just here, right? Nationwide, do not trust fire escapes. Did anybody send out that alert to the owners and the tenants of the building? Here's a new Massachusetts law that I think Governor Baker wants to sign, and that is all rent checks now need to be collected personally by the landlords through the fire escape. So, the rent check, you stick it on the outside of the window, and you're not allowed to go, only the landlord is personally can go and get his rent through the fire escape. And there's a process of verification of that. How many fire escapes are gonna get fixed?
Oh.
Well, you'd have to collect the first rents check first.
Yeah, we get first and last months, yeah, so there's a little 60-day
Drop it
window
through the
there.
missing thread.
A little problematic when you have fire balconies.
Can you drop that down there?
Drones, by the way, we have an answer for everything.
What was that?
We use drones.
Drones.
That's the end of the class. If you want to talk to me and get my card or get my name, give me your card. And if you want to talk, if anybody at the state level would like to have me teach a class, these classes are free. I only asked for a cup of coffee and a donut. I was given, I got pumpkin cake, I think, this morning, which is very good. And we'll keep beating the drum. Last time you saw me, I had hair, and I don't know what 15 years from now is going to look like, but I'll keep beating this drum nationwide. But I think Massachusetts can lead the nation in fire escape reform. Sadly, because we don't want any more dead people on the ground, and we'd love to help, but sometimes it falls on deaf ears, but sometimes it's, you get 1 guy, 2 guys, 5 guys that wiggle the flag forward. So if you're one of those, we'd love to have your help, pass the word along. Anything you can do would be great, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the class.
Thank
I know one more now, the way it came on. Yeah, I've seen that. You know what, she probably had a folder.
I know.
So you only signed once on it.
Sign out.
She takes it. Yeah, just call her and tell her. Doesn't work. You were a couple minutes late. Oh, did you?
I live in summer. You get a,
I'll deal with as much as I
Yeah,
can.
she's here in the beginning, Duffy, and then